What's going on with your show, man? What do you do? Hold on to your hats, everyone. There is no more Fast and Loud. What? People were shocked when Fast and Loud, a show that turned rust into gold, disappeared without a trace. Richard Rawlings became famous when he turned old cars into works of art that millions of people watched for years. The engines then stopped working all of a sudden, from cast leaving to public fights. Behind-the-scenes issues in the show were just as exciting as what happened on screen. Did the hit show on the Discovery Channel fail because of how popular it was, or was there something more sinister going on? Come with us as we break down the shocking truth about why Fast and Loud was dropped and no longer airs on TV. Fast and Loud wasn't just another car show. It was a lighthouse for people who loved old cars but didn't think they could fix them up. Every episode showed that even the worst-kept car could become a head-turner with skill, hard work, and direction. The show stood out in a sea of reality TV because of its unique approach. Not only did it entertain, but it also made people see promise in things that other people had given up on. The end of the show was like a car crash. It was sudden, it shook everyone, and no one knew what happened. Fans who had been there for every repair and celebrated each one were shocked. Week after week, they saw rusty shells turn into shiny classics. They had no idea why, but their window into this world had just shut. Fast and Loud was a lot of fun because of Richard Rawlings, who was its heart. He wasn't just another TV star. He was born in Fort Worth, Texas. His journey began when he was 14 and got his first car, which started a love that would last a lifetime. He learned everything he knew about fixing cars by working with his dad. He tried his hand at writing for a short time, but cars were really his work. They did something brave in 2002. He closed down his printing business and started Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas. It was more than just a business choice. Because he loved cars so much, he took a big risk. People noticed how passionate you were. His work stood out to the Discovery Channel, which made his shop the star of Fast and Loud. He was good at more than just cars. He was good at getting other people to believe in them. Every repair job at Gas Monkey Garage was more than just a fix. He turned old, ignored cars into works of art that made their new owners proud. He was a hero in the field of restoring cars because he could see beauty under rust and bring it out. His personal collection of cars showed how skilled he was. He added modern touches to classic cars like the 1968 Shelby Mustang and the 1977 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am to make them stand out. He was known for being respectful of past while also being open to new ideas. Rawlings was great at business outside of the shop. Over $10 million was made when he sold 28 of his one-of-a-kind repairs. This showed that his shop could do well without TV cameras. Fast and Loud, on the other hand, made him famous all over the world. The show did more than just help him sell more. He had a big impact on car culture all over the world because of it. There was more than just a show ending when Fast and Loud did. Fans thought it was the end of an era. They were used to seeing Rawlings bring about amazing changes. His charm made restoring cars more interesting to people who had never thought of themselves as car people. Even though Rawlings is working on other projects to try to bring back the magic of the show, things feel different. It seems quieter in the garage. It's not the same with the TV. Where Gas Monkey Garage used to be full of energy, there is now a clear hole in the world of restoring old cars. Rawlings' excitement is what makes the engines roar and the work go quickly. He had an effect on the show that went beyond his mechanical skills. Each show included his own personal stories, which made viewers feel like they were a part of each project. He was very involved as the boss of Gas Monkey Garage, often seen with tools in hand. This showed that he really cared about the work. Putting cars back together wasn't just his job, it was his craft and his love. People who liked cars were shocked when Fast and Loud ended. They were shocked and sad at the same time because they missed a show that had been a part of their lives for years. It wasn't just about the cars. Fans had been following Rawlings' own journey in the car business and seen him turn his interest into a very successful job. It's clear now that the show's success wasn't a fluke. It was set up to win from the start. When Discovery Channel directors heard how popular Rawlings' Garage Online was, they thought it could be a hit show. They saw how talented he was and offered him a show even though his shop wasn't making much money yet. It was a dream deal for Rawlings, who is deeply in love with cars. This was his chance to show off his skills, grow his business, and tell everyone about what he loves. The format of the show was great for getting people interested. It had strong teamwork, detailed restorations, and the thrill of making money by selling fixed-up cars. People who had never seen a car show before were interested in this mix. Fast and Loud didn't just show how to change the look of cars. It pulled people into a world of difficulties, skill, and victories. In the void that followed, fans tried to figure out why the show that had sparked their interest in old cars again had ended without a proper farewell. Just when you thought the shocking truth about why Fast and Loud was canceled couldn't get any more shocking, a string of scandals began to surface, showing a dark side that would make even the most loyal fans question everything they thought they knew. What were the makers trying to hide? And how deep did the lie really go? The rise of Richard Rawlings from garage to glory. Every success story has a beginning, and it's usually a quiet one. The star of Fast and Loud, Richard Rawlings, got his start in his dad's shed in Fort Worth, Texas. The young man was saving money for his first car. At that age, most kids would be thinking about school dances or video games. This wasn't just a whim of a teenager, it was the start of a love that would change his life. Young Rawlings learned more than just how to fix cars by working with his dad. He learned how to be patient enough to bring an engine back to life, creative enough to see a rusty frame as a future classic, and determined enough to finish a job no matter how much oil got on his clothes. Not only were they learning how to fix cars, but they were also learning how to live their lives. The Horsefly is the name for this. This is the same person who made the Hoss bikes. It's possible that they made two or one of these. But things don't always go straight in life. Rawlings didn't start working with cars right away after high school. He tried his hand at being a fireman, a police officer, and even a paramedic on the side. He learned how to work well with others, make quick decisions, and do well under pressure in these jobs. These experiences, even though they seemed very different from his car dreams, were quietly getting him ready for his future in the fast-paced world of TV. In the end, Rawlings went into business for himself and started a printing company. It looked like he was moving away from his love of cars on paper. He was actually learning very important business skills. How to run a business, deal with customers, and keep the books. His printing business did well, which kept him stable. But being good at one thing didn't make him lose interest in another. He dreamed about cars all the time, and they were always in the shed. In 2002, Rawlings had to deal with a major issue. His printing business was steady, which is something that many people would want. But safety wasn't what pushed him. His heart was still in the shed, where he loved to work on cars and fix old engines. He then did something that many people would call crazy. He gave open Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas his printing business. It wasn't just a change in jobs. Rawlings put all of his money on his interest. He was leaving the stable world of printing for the less stable world of restoring cars. A lot of people would think twice about taking that risk. For Rawlings, the real risk was not going after his dream. It wasn't just business when I opened Gas Monkey Garage. It was about finally putting his work in line with what he really cared about. It paid off, but not how most people would have thought. The garage did well, but its real success came from somewhere you wouldn't expect TV. They heard rumors about a charismatic Texan who could turn old car parts into gold. The Discovery Channel is always looking for new and interesting stories. They saw in Rawlings something more than just grease and gears, the ability to be a star. They weren't just interested in how good he was at cars. A lot of workers know how to fix things or paint a fender. What made Rawlings unique was his ability to see past the way a car was at the moment. Others saw a pile of rust, but he saw a beauty ready to come out. He was great for TV because he could see hidden beauty and bring it out. The Discovery Channel gave him a chance that not many people get their own show. This wasn't just a chance for Rawlings to become famous. It gave him a chance to share his lifelong love with the world and show that anything can be brought back to life with vision and hard work. Plus, the publicity was supposed to make his shop a lot more well-known. It was hard for Rawlings at first. A lot of famous people were on reality TV all trying to get your attention. Would a show about fixing up old cars really stand out? When Fast and Loud came out, those worries went away faster than a hot rod at a green light. People weren't just interested in the show, they were captivated by it. The lively mix of the show drew people in. It was stressful to meet tight deadlines, difficult to bring rusty old things back to life, and thrilling to sell a repaired car for a good profit. It was more than just seeing cars get fixed. It was about going on the whole journey with all of its challenges, triumphs, times of doubt, and teamwork. How fast and loud did you make America love you? You have to work hard to stand out in the world of TV. Viewers have a huge selection of channels and online services to choose from. Because of this, you know a show is good when it has millions of supporters. But that's the story of Fast and Loud, a show that made the simple idea of fixing old cars into a huge hit. At first look, the idea might not seem very innovative. Car shows have been around for a long time, and most of the time they are about special builds or fast races. Fast and Loud, on the other hand, went in a different direction. Instead of making new cars or showing off speed, it focused on something that many people had forgotten: the beauty and promise of old cars that had been ignored. People liked how this show focused on repair. People are often crazy about the newest tools and models, but Fast and Loud showed that things that other people have thrown away can still be useful. Each episode showed how a car that was thought to be useless could be turned into a work of art with skill and vision. That's not all that made the show popular, it was also how Fast and Loud presented the idea that really hooked people. At the heart of each show was a close look at how to fix up a car. But this wasn't just a dry explanation of how to do something. The show made each project into a story so fans could feel every bump in the road and every victory. Richard Rawlings might find a 1965 Mustang hidden in a barn at the beginning of a show. The paint was chipped, and inside, a family of mice lived. People watch his team at Gas Monkey Garage work and learn about the car's past. Could have been the first thing a young couple bought, a sign of the American dream for them. People aren't just watching a fix as rust is scraped off and parts are put in their place. They are seeing a piece of history come back to life. The show did a great job of combining this technical knowledge with human stories. The Garage's technical genius, Aaron Kaufman, spent hours putting an engine back together and didn't just talk about each step. That's how he learned this skill from his teacher, or how this engine made him think of his first project to restore an old car. These stories did more than just teach. They made viewers feel like they were part of each car's trip. Fast and Loud also knew how important characters were. People on a lot of reality shows can seem fake or overstated. The Gas Monkey Garage team, on the other hand, seemed honest. Richard Rawlings was more than just a boss. He had a big picture view and could see what a car could be when it was covered in rust. People who saw him believed in each project just as much as he did because of how excited he was about it. Then there was the communication between people on the team. The show didn't shy away from showing how stressful things were. Due to short deadlines and the need to make money on each car, there was a lot of stress. In one episode, Rawlings and Kaufman might argue about how to change a 1970 Chevelle. Their arguments would show how they have different ideas. Rawlings makes choices based on business, while Kaufman is obsessed with being perfect all the time. These times of stress weren't just made up for TV. They showed the real problems that come up when you run a repair business. The cars didn't always meet the goals. It would be tough to find the parts. If a project was supposed to take a week and then runs into trouble, like finding that the frame is more rusted than thought, the team may have to work extra hours. By showing these problems, Fast and Loud gave fans a real look at how hard each shiny restored car was worked on. The show was also popular because it taught people things. Many people today feel like they don't have a say in how things work, but Fast and Loud gave them a glimpse into a world where they did. If the show is about a 1959 Cadillac, it might talk about the art of chrome plating or the history of tail fins in American cars. People weren't just entertained, they learned and gained a greater respect for the craftsmanship that goes into making cars. Also, Fast and Loud made people feel like they were back in the day. Many people who watched had memories of old cars, like a road trip in their dad's Chevy or a first date in a stolen Ford Mustang. By bringing these cars back to life, the show wasn't just fixing up cars, it brought back memories that people loved. The cash part made things even more exciting. It wasn't just about how the car changed in each show. The team also had to think about whether they could sell it and make money. With this business angle, the end of every bid or sale was always very exciting. Would the Porsche GTO they worked on for weeks sell for enough to cover costs and pay the team? People were on the edge of their seats as they watched because of the financial tension. Each sale felt like a win for the whole Gas Monkey team. The real-life events that went into making Fast and Loud. What goes on behind the scenes of reality TV can be just as interesting as what you see on TV. Fast and Loud was no different. People watched to see how classic cars were fixed up, but something else was going on behind the scenes. One in which important group members left quickly. Stress that was never shown on TV. With each new season of the show, fans began to see a trend. People who were well known and whose skills and personalities had made the show fun were all of a sudden gone. There weren't just a few exits that made people scratch their heads, there were a lot of them. After that person showed up, the show would move on, as if they had never been there. Aaron Kaufman's exit was one of the most shocking ones. He is the mechanical mind behind Gas Monkey Garage. Kaufman wasn't just another member of the team, he was Richard Rawlings' right-hand man and the wizard who could make any old thing work again. He was liked by many because he was good with tools and took time to think about things. Because of this, when he left in 2017, it shocked the Fast and Loud fan world. It was shocking how quickly Kaufman quit that made it so shocking. One season he's there, drenched in engine oil, describing how the transmission in a 1967 Mustang works. He's not there when the next season starts. He only said that he was leaving for personal reasons. This vague answer didn't do much to satisfy fans who were interested. Had something bad happen with Rawlings? Did he get tired of being on TV? The show didn't give any answers, and the lack of sound only added to the rumors. Finally, there was the case of Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, two skilled workers whose leaving caused even more trouble. There was no quiet exit for Kaufman, but theirs was marked by a public charge that made Richard Rawlings look bad. Smith said they were fired because they let a fan take pictures with a modified car in the garage, which might not seem like a big deal. But this wasn't just any fan. That person had cystic fibrosis, a very bad lung disease, and they wanted a picture with one of Gas Monkey's famous cars. The boss of the garage said no, but Smith and Butler were kind and let it happen, even though it might have been bad for their health. Because of this act of kindness, both workers lost their jobs. Rawlings was shown in a very bad light when this news came out. It wasn't just any fans, these were people who had been watching the show for years, which made Fast and Loud a hit. Many people thought it was shockingly unfair that someone could be fired for being nice to a friend who was sick. This event happened at a time when stop culture. More and more people were quickly rejecting public figures for what they thought were wrongdoings. Because of this, Rawlings quickly faced pushback. A lot of people stopped watching the show because they were disappointed by what they saw as his real bad attitude. It's possible that this loss of fans helped bring an end to Fast and Loud. When Jesse James, who is known for his show Monster Garage, joined Fast and Loud, that made things worse. At first, fans were excited that two well-known names in car repair were working together. It looked like James and Rawlings got along, adding something new to the show. The friendly mood didn't last, though. When Rawlings said bad things about James in public, things changed. James got back at Rawlings by dumping a huge pile of horse manure on his driveway. It was such a dramatic reaction that it could have been a scene from a reality show. It wasn't a joke. It was filmed and shared by many. Some people thought it was rude and too tough. Before, James was liked a lot on Fast and Loud, but his image took a big hit. His position changed from a welcomed personality to an unwelcome figure. Fans who used to cheer him on now felt ashamed and let down. There was more to these departures and tensions than just a change in the company. They gave us a look behind the scenes, letting us know that life at Gas Monkey Garage wasn't all smooth engines and new paint jobs. There were questions made by the steady flow of people leaving, often in bad weather. Was it hard to work with Rawlings? Did some things happen that were never shown on TV? Was the stress of being famous on TV putting a strain on relationships? Fans also noticed a change as the show went on and more original cast members left. The show didn't seem to be as real as it did in the beginning. As they left, a little of the original charm seemed to go to. It was replaced by what seemed like more scripted theater. Because of this change and the problems that happened off-screen, many watchers thought that Fast and Loud had strayed far from its roots and was now more about silly stunts than real mechanical artistry. It got off track with Fast and Loud TV shows often stretched the truth to make their stories more interesting, but blurring these lines can fail on a show about restoring old cars, where facts like how rare or in good shape a car is important. When people started to wonder if what they were seeing on Fast and Loud was real, the show got into a lot of trouble. In one of the most talked about events, what were said to be the first prototypes of the Pontiac Firebird were found in an old barn. Each car was said to be worth about $325 on the show, which made it seem like a huge find. This was like finding hidden treasure for car fans, especially Pontiac fans. These weren't any old cars, they were said to be the first of their kind and the only ones of their kind. People were glued to their screens and could feel the energy. The thrill didn't last long, though. As soon as the episode aired, car experts and fans started to doubt what the show said. They said that these weren't unique prototypes, but rather early models that would be used in production. Even though they were still cool, these cars were not the unique works of art that the show had made them out to be. There is a big difference. If you say you have the very first prototype of the iPhone when you actually have one of the very first iPhones that were sold to the public, that's not true. It got even better after that. Later, these cars were seen on eBay, where they were being sold for about $30,000. That's not even close to the $325 worth that was shown on the show. What if someone told you that a picture was a priceless Picasso? It turned out to be a nice but standard piece of art that you could buy at a nearby gallery. This information quickly spread online, which hurts fans' trust and makes them question the show's trustworthiness. What these cars were wrongly shown wasn't just a small mistake, it went to the heart of what Fast and Loud said it was. The show became famous for being a help for people who love cars, showing off rare finds and skilled repairs. But this event made a lot of people think if they were wrong about this, what else might not be true? Was every claim of a rare find just a lie? Did these cars really have such exciting pasts, or were they made up for TV? As if lying to viewers about car values wasn't bad enough, this news broke the trust between the show and its fans. People began to question Richard Rawlings' choices. Rawlings was known for being brave, and he often made decisions that even his biggest fans didn't understand. What is his most controversial habit? Buying cars over and over that were more rust than metal. Every time Rawlings would be very excited to buy a car that looked like it had been in a lake for decades. We're talking about cars that had rust on at least 80% of the body. Most people would think these cars belonged in a junkyard instead of a shed where they are being fixed up. But Rawlings would look past the peeling paint and broken metal and say that each one was a diamond in the rough. It turned into a habit, not just a one-time thing or a special job. People watched episode after episode as he brought in cars that looked like they would fall apart if you blew too hard on them. The people who worked for him at Gas Monkey Garage would often be shocked by these purchases and ask, "Really, boss, this one?" But Rawlings' excitement never turned off. It wasn't just that these cars were old that was wrong. It was because they were so in bad shape that fixing them became hard. Like in the episode where Rawlings bought a 1956 Chevy Bel Air. At first glance, it looked like a great choice of well-known classic. But when they got to work on it, they saw that almost the whole body was made of rust. The frame was rusty and looked like a sponge, and the floor had more holes than metal. In a different show, he bought a 1970 Plymouth Barracuda, which was also a great model on paper. But when they opened the hood, the engine bay was so rusty that pieces of it fell apart in their hands. The inside was a safe place for mice and rats. Many of the original parts were lost or couldn't be fixed. These projects were more than just hard. They lost a lot of money. It was crazy how much work these cars needed to be fixed up before they could be driven again. New floors, frame pieces, and body panels. Sometimes it seemed like they were making a brand new car instead of fixing up an old one. Sometimes, just the cost of the parts was more than what an auctioned-off, fully repaired version of the same car would bring in. However, Rawlings made more bad choices than just getting rusty hulks. The changes he made to classic cars were often so over the top that they made car experts shake their heads. In an episode that stands out, he got his hands on a perfect 1967 Mustang Fastback. The majority of this car's parts were original, and it was in great shape. It was a collector's dream. Rawlings chose to do everything he could. He got a new, high-power V8 engine to replace the old one, changed the transmission, made the handling better, and even changed the car's famous color. He then put on wheels that were too big for the car and made it look more like a current sports car than a classic Mustang. There was no doubt that the end result was strong and striking, but it had lost a lot of what made it a classic. A lot of people who watched said that these changes didn't make the car more valuable, they made it less valuable. Classic car fans usually pay a lot of money for cars that are true to life and don't have any modern improvements. When Rawlings made these big changes to the Mustang, he changed it from a rare original car into something flashy that had lost a lot of its historical value. The fact that Rawlings bought very rusted cars and made a lot of changes to classic cars showed a trend in the way he thought. He was reckless and often let his excitement get in the way of what was best for him. Even though he was truly passionate and had obvious skills, he often made decisions that seemed more motivated by his desire for a dramatic TV moment than by good business or car sense. As these bad choices piled up over the seasons, they changed how people saw the show. Fans were excited to see an old wreck turn into a shiny classic, but they soon got sad when they realized how much time, money, and original parts were being wasted. The news about cars having false prices only made people more disappointed. Thanks for seeing. Right now there is a link on your screen that will take you to another interesting video. We'll see you next time.